Hey there, Danny here. Welcome to my ramblings. I've talked in other videos about the book that I'm working on. The book that I'm working on is based off of my childhood. I was raised by a very narcissistic woman. And I'm not talking about if you need help medically, I mean mental or physical, but I'm talking that the book is basically supposed to open up a dialogue about you have one of two choices when you come from dysfunction. You have one of two choices. One, you can sink deeper into that self-pity, that pit of despair, down the rabbit hole like I speak of. But you can also decide that you don't want to be that. And when you decide that, you don't know. Because you don't have any knowledge of what it's like to grow up without the dysfunction. So the only thing that you can do is the exact opposite of what was done for you. So that's kind of what the point of the book is opening up a conversation on. And I've been trying to, I've said how difficult some of the writing is. The writing itself isn't difficult. A lot of these stories I have shared with people that I've known over my adult life, especially after they happened, some of the stuff in the adult life. But the biggest thing that I couldn't articulate is why I'm not fully there with the book yet. And the main reason for that is I had my bestest guy over this weekend, and he's a worker like I am, and so we were out busting our butts Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then we came back to the RV and hung out and had good conversation and great company. So this best guy of mine, he's I've known him for just over 18 years. And we weren't always like hanging out or anything. It was on and off over the 18 years. But when we did get together, we would spend hours just sitting and filling each other in on what's happened since the last time we saw each other. So I always said to everybody, up to and including him, that this was the most honest relationship that I have ever had with anybody. Because he would tell me things. I mean, we talked about, there was nothing that we couldn't talk about. Well, probably, I don't know, maybe the past 7-8 months or so, slowly but surely we've started talking about our childhoods and our pasts that we didn't actually share with each other because we didn't really get together all that often. Now we get together quite a bit, regularly. And the more time I spend with him and the more that we share our life stories with each other, the more the more I enjoy his company. But the problem is I'm not afraid to talk about this. I'm not afraid of people's reactions other than one thing. And I was sharing a story with him, I think it was last night, and it was great. We were having great conversation. I shared a story with him about when I was younger with my mother, and it's the eyes. I can share the story with people who aren't going to be shocked by what I tell them because they've been through something similar, so they're not going to have that shocked look. They're going to be more understanding. But somebody who hasn't gone through some of the stuff that I or other people have gone through, when you hear the stories, it's majority of the time you get that pity look. That, oh, I'm so sorry you had to go through that. That wasn't the look that he gave me. the look he gave me when I shared the story, which is why I generally don't make eye contact with people when I'm sharing the story, these type of stories with them, because I don't want to be able to read in their eyes what they're thinking. For some reason, it puts me off. But I think that's just because I was being raised by a narcissist. You're kind of trained to watch people's facial expressions and their body language, and you're taught to. I shouldn't say you're taught. You learn how to notice when somebody's emotions change, and coming from living in such dysfunction, when you see any type of anger or rage, it automatically sets off this I've got to run and hide. Your fight or flight kicks in, which I have absolutely no reason for fight or flight to show up with him at all. I would never ever doubt that he would have my back. So the fact that popped up made me realize my biggest hurdle, and what I'm currently working on right now that I've noticed it, is as I shared this story with him, I could see when I looked him in the eyes, I could see the anger and the rage. Not at me, but at the fact that I had to go through that. And the more he learns about my childhood and my younger years, the more he has that look when I tell him the stories. And I don't want to share with him that look, how it affects me. And the only reason that I don't want to is because I think him giving me that look is going to help me get past it. Because those are his true feelings. When he hears the things, I mean, he's known about my mother while she was alive and whatever else. He knew that it was a really tumultuous relationship with her and I, and he knew some of that, but he didn't know particulars. And as we've spent more and more time together over, I don't know, like the last couple of months, he got into a small, tight spot at one point, so he came and crashed here for a couple of nights just to take himself out of the situation, slept on the couch. And then he's just been coming back since then. And we've been really like sharing our childhoods and stuff with him, which is kind of funny because I never viewed him as I don't think I ever viewed him. Maybe I did, but I don't think that I ever viewed him as the bad boy type. I always viewed him as nice and kind and very understanding. He was not your typical guy who, I mean, he's a total pervert just like most guys, but that's beside the point. He's not. He's more in tune with women's issues and things like that. He's got a mom and a sister, so he kind of has an idea. And he has a daughter. So he kind of has a better idea than a lot of guys. Anyways, so getting to know and hear his stories, I'm like, holy shit, I would have never, and I've known him for just over 18 years, I would have never guessed some of the stories he shared with me. I asked him the other night, I said, so are you like a reformed bad boy, or are you just, you're just getting old? Anyways, the point is that I'm attempting to make here is when you have been a victim of domestic violence, a victim of some type of manipulation in any of your life, when you share that story, when you share stories that affected you a lot, initially the hurdle isn't necessarily sharing it with the people. You can, a domestic violence victim or a child of abuse can share their story freely. They don't have, most of them, I can't speak for everybody. I should speak for myself. I'm sorry. I apologize. For me, I can freely share the stories. That does not affect me. I don't have a problem sharing the stories. The part that is hard is the person you're telling's reaction. So there's usually a couple of reactions. One is they are totally not willing to even acknowledge that abuse actually exists, and they're pretty much just gonna tell you that you're part of the problem or whatever else. Those people aren't important. They've never had to deal with what you have, or maybe they have and they just haven't dealt with it. Instead, it's sucked down and you brought them that back up for them. So that may be why they're kind of like blowing you off and acting like you're not really a victim. The other one that you get from people is shock. And they're always, especially if they know you and the other person, the abuser, they're in shock, they're in disbelief. When you point certain things out, because they'll start asking you questions. And when you start pointing certain things out to answer their questions, at that point they're usually in like shock. Oh my God, I did not realize that this was going on. They're in total and utter shock, and they're like apologetic for not seeing it. Well, they couldn't see it. An abuser is very, very good at what they do. They've had decades of experience before you came along on how to do it. And if it's in a domestic violence situation, a lot of those guys watched their dad or some other male role model in their life be abusive. So they're mimicking what they saw, what they grew up with. And then there's the people that when you share it, and these are people that are usually close to you, that really care about you. They know who you are as a human being. They know who you are. But they didn't know where you came from. And when they hear those stories, because they care about you, you can see the anger and the rage in their eyes. It's not directed at me or to any other victim, but you can see that they're very angry that you had to go through anything like that, or that anybody would treat you that way, or anybody would treat anybody that way. That is the hard part for me, is to see the anger and the rage in their eyes, because I have to fight back my fight or flight, because the minute I see anger or rage on somebody's face, it automatically takes me back to, because when you are raised by a very manipulative and abusive parent, I don't really know what it would be like for having a father like that. I just know my mother. My father wasn't around because she didn't allow it. And that'll all be in the book. So you learn as a child, and children shouldn't have to learn these things. Children should not have to. They should be able to be a child and enjoy childhood. And they can't do that, because at any given moment that their abuser can switch. And I'm going to tell you right now that my mother could be the most loving, kind person in the world, and anybody who knew her would 100% say that about her. But they didn't know her. They didn't see what went on behind closed doors. And people that were privy to what went on behind closed doors, for some reason, they're able to speak words. And to me, in an adult perspective right now, if I see an adult justifying treating a teenager or their child a certain way, I am not going to go, oh, okay, maybe the mother knows. No, they don't. And it's a huge red flag for me. I see it quite a bit when I'm in the stores and restaurants and stuff, because, well, I do delivery, so I see a lot of people. I interact. Sometimes I just observe. But anyways, the point is when these people realize what you've been through, that look of anger or rage, it automatically trips the fight or flight in you. And that is one area that I need to work on. Not that I wanted to fight my best guy or or run from him. But the look made me realize that I need to work on that part of myself, because if I'm going to finalize this book and I'm going to publish it out here, I'm going to have to potentially deal with that look from other people when I'm doing book signings or whatever else, or talking engagements or whatever comes of it. I don't know what'll come of it. Maybe nothing. I don't know. But I realized hanging out with him this weekend and sharing our stories that's one area that evidently I haven't fixed that yet. So that is what I'm working on now. The story itself, I can tell you over and over. I can tell people over and over, and it doesn't bother me. I don't like the pity looks and the oh my God. I get asked a lot when they find out some of these stories. I do get asked a lot, how the hell did I turn out the way that I did? And that's, like I said earlier, that's the premise of the book. The whole entire thing is to start a conversation and get people to start thinking that, we in our society perfectly accept that an addict is an addict because, they've gone through some traumatic thing when they were younger or whatever and they didn't deal with it. Well, those people were just like me. They had their childhood just like I did. My brother and I were raised in the same household. He turned out like her. I think a little bit worse, but she made him in her image. And she had to deal with that at the end. And I didn't know. I didn't know how to be different. I didn't know what that looked like. I had spent time at church members' homes in the summertime and on the weekends and stuff, so I did have an idea of what a loving family was like. That I did know. I think that's what tripped me to go, okay, something's not right in this, in my house that I'm growing up in. But I think that being around those people, I didn't know how to be more like them because I had nobody living it around me. So when I got out into the world and had kids, I just decided that I was going to do everything as differently as I possibly could from her. And I did a pretty good job. I mean, I'm human. We all make mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes. That's the great journey of being human. We learn from our mistakes. If we don't, then we stay stagnant. And we're basically just walking dead people. But I am going to work on my fight or flight when I see anger or rage in somebody's eyes when I share those stories. So that's my next challenge that I have to work on. If you have those issues and you've gotten past them, feel free to reach out. I'll gladly love to hear what you have to say and maybe some of your mechanisms that you use to cope and get yourself over it might work for me. I'm open to having a conversation. If you're not where I'm at and you want to get here, I'm open to those conversations and help you get here. Your biggest goal in life, in order to find your purpose and why you're here, you literally have to go through life. You literally have to learn to love yourself and find your authentic self. Once you do those two things, and they're kind of linked together, once you do those things, the world changes. It like instantly changes around you. You are now, because if you really think about it, all we have in this world, so there's reality. And you know how they always say that it takes two to tango, or there's two sides to every story? Well, that's because each one of us have our own perception. And our perception can only be there based off of previous knowledge that we've had. So when you've come from dysfunction or abuse, it's a really, really, really difficult thing to get past it and be able to come out and learn to love yourself and find your true authentic self. But once you do that, you don't ever have to deal with that stuff again. You can see it a mile away. And I know why I chose the people that I chose, because each one of them had a piece of, had something that reminded me of my mother. I didn't realize it at the time. I think deep down I knew, but I didn't fully. So, they were each a lesson for me to grow and find my true authentic self and love myself. So I could be here and do this with you. I'm still in the process of working on the book. Like I said, it's been very cathartic, very therapeutic. Some of the stuff, when I'm writing it, it tends to bring up other memories. It tends to trigger other things that I had hidden, because I guess I just didn't want to deal with them. So as I'm writing the book and I'm writing out these stories, and all of a sudden something else will trip, and then I've got to take a break, and I've got to sit with that. And so it's like an ever evolving thing, but when it's done, we're going to be able to start a conversation, especially in this country, hopefully in the world, that we don't have to tolerate this anymore, and that we don't all have to become damaged and not find our happy ending. Because a happy ending doesn't necessarily mean that it's with somebody else. That happy ending could be, honestly, you loving yourself and finding your true authentic self. That really could be all it is. And once you get here, the people, you meet new people, you literally will be out in public, at a gas station, at a grocery store, at a restaurant, anywhere. And people are going to smile at you. They're going to start conversations with you. You're going to meet people that are at your level, but you're not going to realize it until you get to that level. And when you do, the world opens up to you. So I just wanted to share that with you, that I'm working on that piece. And I don't know that I will ever be fully 100% healed from everything that happened to me. That's really not important to me. What's important is that I put out what I have to put out, because I went against all odds, and I threw caution to the wind, and I said, I got to do this different. I gotta, all of the dysfunction and the craziness that my family was, that I came from, had to end with me. And I wanted to be the cycle breaker for the dysfunction that I come from. And I did. I look at my children, and I did. I messed up. We all did. We all do. We're human. But it was very important for me to change that dysfunction and that abuse. And I did it. And it was a lot of work. And it was a lot of stress, because I didn't know if I was doing it right or not. I wouldn't know until they became older. Now they're grown adults. So all I can say is, feel free to reach out. And if you've been through where I'm at right now with the fight or flight thing, because somebody's angry or rageful over the story that I shared because they feel protective of you, feel free to reach out and give me some of how you managed to get past it, because I'd love some advice on that. If you don't, and you're where I'm at, then let's navigate it together if you want. Again, my contact information is down in the description. Feel free to reach out. I attempt to check my email a couple of times a day. I've been pretty bad about only doing it like once a day lately, but I don't get a lot of emails. And there have been a couple of calls on the cell phone that I put down there, but nobody leaves a voicemail. And half the time it's that phone stays in the car when I go in and pick food up from a restaurant or drop it off at a customer's house. So I don't always notice it until later. That's my bad. So I will get better with that. But feel free to leave a voicemail. or it's a cell phone. So if you want, feel free to shoot a text if you don't get an answer, and I'll get back to you. Yeah, let's move forward and build this beautiful soul tribe of people that are growing and loving themselves and finding their true authentic self. Let's go after our happiness, people. Our freedom and our peace have been found. Now we're after our happiness. And I'm going to give you a clue. Happiness is basically being content. It's peace. It's peace. It's freedom from judgment of others. And we'll get you there. It's a tedious process, but I've been through it, so I can help guide you through it and help get you through it a little bit easier. I won't tell you what to do. You've got to do it all on your own. We're all here on our own journeys. So anyways, with that, I'm going to leave you with that for now. I will be back in a day or two. Hopefully I can get back onto schedule. I've been pulling extra time and other things that I got going on and socializing. I now have a life again. It's not just working and coming home. And I'm loving my new world. 2024 is turning out to be a magnificent year. And if my best guy is watching, hey, can't wait to see you again. Have a nice night, guys. Love ya.